And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. It's Benchley night. Welcome, welcome wherever you are. Oh, it's been raining here today. It stopped now. We've not floated away. So far, I haven't heard any more bad flooding today, knock on wood. I see a cat lurking around in the background. The cat may know about flooding that I don't. Cat Charbonneau and I are having a bit of a battle. He stayed out all night with his friend Breeze 2 nights ago. Last night I achieved him at about 6 p.m. and locked him in, and he was pretty sore about that. So tonight I have not achieved him. I think he and Breeze are hanging out smoking dope under the Milliken's porch. That's what I suspect. And I suspect he won't come in at all until after I've gone to bed. And then he'll come in and try to sneak past Dad, sleeping in Dad's room. And he'll be like, I'm fine. Hi, John Wilhelm. Hi, Tony Hewlick. Well, we've got people watching. It's time to get going. I hear a jingling. Wait a minute. I hear a jingling of a little collar. Sharbo. If I achieve him, I'm going to have to prevent him from going out again. So there'll be a break while I close the other door. But who knows if he'll actually come in or not? He's just around. He's in the environs. Anyway, we have a bunch of people to thank for the diner fundraiser. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are doing great. We are each week we've set a very ambitious goal of trying to raise $1,000 each week, and this week we raised $920. So that's very close, but we're at about $3,000 toward the Benchley, toward endowing the Benchley chair. Come on, I'm going to see if I can get him. Sharbo, you want to come in? Fuck you, Dad. No, do not want to come in. Want to just jingle my collar out on the porch. All right. Anyway, we are well on our way to endowing the Benchley chair at almost $3,000 now out of the $5,000 goal. And I have a lot of people to thank. The unidentified unglet is ready to go. Hi, Martha. Hi, Nat. All right. First off, are you ready? We're just going to zoom through these, ladies and gentlemen. Zoom through these. First off, special thanks to Ms. Barbara Tapp, Mr. Dan Duffy, Mr. Steve LaSala, Miss Holly Bartell, Ms. Jane Mangini, the great Adara Iacono, Carol Burning, Sarah Obenden, Gary Pearson and Aline Cortez staying away from the Bears for one more week. The great soap maker in our midst, Judy Leidy. My Taosian friend, Meg Miser. Tracy Lee Fultz Hunt, one of the great railroad painters of our time, ladies and gentlemen, one of the great railroad painters of our time. The wonderful Shel Sauer. John P. Lassiter IV, a painter friend, a wonderful human being. Thank you, John. Pete Brown, another artist friend. Thanks, Pete. The wonderful Terry Hudson. Ms. Martha Rowley. Catherine Fisher. Susan Hammond, busy making sure our covered bridges don't get swept away in the torrents. Thank you, Susan. John Wilhelm out there in Omaha, Nebraska. Mr. Jim Gilmore. The great Karen Faisler. The excellent J.T. Mayer in Cincinnati, Ohio. Holly Lou Conant Rees, Stephen Hodgson, and out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he must wear an oxygen mask because the altitude that he exists at is it's impossible unless you're a Sherpa to be up there without supplementary oxygen. My very, very, very tall cousin, Mr. Nat Hunter, and his wonderful wife, Elise. Thank you all so much. Together we are going to get the Robert Benchley diner stool fully endowed. And I so appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's reading is a fairly brief Robert Benchley. I've never read it before. It's not as good as opera synopses, but it's not bad. Happy Childhood Tales. We've had so many stories lately dealing with the sordid facts about life, about kitchen sinks and murders, and young people thrown out into the streets by mean old farmers who live in horsehair trunks, to say nothing of incidental subjects such as gin and cold oatmeal, and unfortunate people who have only one glove apiece, that a reaction is taking place in the mind of the reading public, and the demand is going up for some of the fanciful, happy tales of our youth. Enough of these stories of crime and unhappiness the people are crying. Tell us again some of the ancient myths of an older day, the gay little legends on which we were brought up before the world grew so grim and cold. And so, my little readers, I am going to try to recall to you some of the charming fairy tales, or at any rate to make up some, like them. And I hope that after this little trip back to the Never Never Land of our youth, these little cheeks of yours will be blooming again, and that you will shut your traps. For after all, there must be some good in the world. Else why were our racers put on the end of lead pencils? Andromeda and Liaison, from the Greek mythology. Andromeda was the daughter of Polygamus, the god of silage, and Reba, the goddess of licorice. She was the child of a most unhappy union, it later turned out, for when she was a tiny child, her father struck her mother with an anvil and turned himself into a lily pad to avoid the vengeance of Jove. But Jove was too sly for Polygamus and struck him with a bolt of lightning the size of the Merchant's Bank building, which threw him completely off his balance, so that he toppled over into a chasm and was dashed to death. In the meantime, little Andromeda found herself alone in the world, but with nobody but Endocrine, the goddess of lettuce, and her son Bilax, the god of gum arabic, to look after her. But as Polygamus, her father, have you forgotten so soon, you dope, had turned Andromeda into a mushroom before he turned himself into a lily pad, neither of her guardians knew who she was, so their protection did her no good. But Jove had not so soon forgotten the daughter of his favorite, Reba, and appeared to her one night in the shape of a mushroom gatherer. He asked her how she would like to get off that tree. She was one of those mushrooms that grows on trees, and get into his basket. Andromeda, not knowing that it was Jove who was asking her, said not so much. Whereupon Jove unloosed his mighty wrath and struck down the whole tree with a bolt of lightning, which he had brought with him in case Andromeda would not listen to reason. That is why it is never safe to eat the mushrooms which grow on trees, or to refuse to get into Jove's basket. Milgrig and the tree wilfs, something like Hans Christian Andersen. Once upon a time, there is a little girl named Milgrig, believe it or not. She lived in the middle of a deep, dark forest with her three ugly sisters and their husbands, who were charcoal burners. Every night, the three ugly sisters used to take little Milgrig and pull out a strand of her golden hair, so that by the time she was 13 years old, she looked something awful. And after the three sisters had pulled out her hair, their three husbands, I forgot to tell you that the three husbands were even uglier than the three sisters, and they were much nastier. They would stick pins into little Milgrig until she looked like a war map. One night, when little Milgrig was so full of pins that she could not see straight, a fairy prince came riding up to the door of the charcoal burner's hut and asked if he had lost his way. "How should I know?" replied the oldest sister, who was uglier than even all the rest. "What was your way?" "My way was to the king's castle," replied the prince, "and I must get there before midnight, for my father is torturing my mother with red-hot irons." "Your father sounds like a good egg," replied the oldest husband, who was even uglier than all the rest. "We must ask him down some night." The prince, however, did not think that this was very funny, and asked if little Milgrig might not be allowed to show him the way to the castle. The ugly husbands and sisters, thinking that Milgrig would not know the way and would get the prince lost in the forest, agreed heartily to this suggestion, and the pins were pulled out of Milgrig to make it possible for her to walk. "Good luck and happy landing," they all called after the two young people as they set forth on their perilous journey. But the prince was no fool, and he knew his way through the forest as well as you or I. Better, I'll wager. And he took little Milgrig to the palace just as fast as his palfrey would carry him. She was not particularly crazy about going, but a prince is a prince, and she knew enough to keep her mouth shut. When they reached the palace and the prince found out that his father had already killed his mother, he turned to little Milgrig and said, "Now you are queen." At this, little Milgrig was very pleased and immediately dispatched messengers to the charcoal burner's hut, where her three ugly sisters and three still uglier brothers-in-law were burned alive in a slow fire. Little Milgrig and the prince, happy in this termination of their little affair, lived happily ever after. And so now, my readers, you must toddle off to bed, for we have had an evening with the happy, happy storytellers of an earlier day, and I've had a vacation, for one night at least, from the drab, unpleasant sordidness of present-day writing. All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that is our Robert Benchley for tonight. Now, I'll be heading down to Easton, Maryland. On Tuesday, I'll be heading down to Easton, Maryland, to Plein Air Easton, where I will be the Eminence Grise. I will be judging the local color art show, which is an art show within the larger Plein Air Easton art show. And I'll be doing a reasonably fine art talk from down there. And then I'll be coming back on Sunday night. So next week, there will not be a Benchley night. But the week after that, you can bet we'll be back. We hope to see you there. You take good care. Stay cool. Stay calm. Stay collected. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.